Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Know who's ready for some fighting words. In this video, I want to talk about Ryan Garcia and basically next steps. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the time right now, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you have, thank you, and thank you for riding with me thus far. Also, if you can hit that thumbs up button, it really does help and support this channel. Let's get into this video. So what's next for Ryan Garcia? Honestly, with his numbers with Gervonta Tank Davis, honestly, the world is his oyster. Yeah, he didn't win the fight, but a lot can be said about his character for number one, just taking the fight or pushing for the fight rather, and going all the way through with it. So we already knew that he was popular. We already knew that he had star power. We already knew that he can move the needle, but now we know that he can move the needle. Yeah, a lot of that was Gervonta Tank Davis, but together they were spontaneous combustion. They did amazing numbers together. And really the question is, what happens now? Because he fired Joe Goossen as his trainer. So in the interim of that, it was Coach Calvin, Gervonta Tank Davis's trainer, who said, listen, I'll work with him. I'll take him. I like him, and I think he has a lot of great attributes, and he shows that he has heart. I'll take him because I can. What Coach Calvin said in particular was, I can work with his heart. He's got the heart, so I can work with him, and I can improve on those little things that, not little things, but the things that he needs help with. And, on the surface, listen, Gervonta Tank Davis is, I'd probably say outside of Canelo, and maybe Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, he's like the hottest thing out right now. So it's not a bad offer. It's really not a bad offer. The only thing with that is, the reality is Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis will see each other again. It's definitely not going to be at 135 pounds, but they will see each other again. And I don't know how that's going to work out with them being trained by the same guy. So I feel like that may not be the best thing in the world for Ryan Garcia, and I can totally see why, because I think they will see each other again, and I think it's sooner rather than later. I honestly think they'll see each other within the next year or two, that soon. So I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense, but in the meantime, he can learn, he can grow, he can develop, he can fix in areas where he's lacking, primarily in defense. Also footwork. His footwork didn't look that great. So there's a few areas in where he's lacking, and I feel like he can improve on those areas. And if he were to cross paths with Gervonta Tank Davis again, in which case, well, who knows? In 2 years, Ryan Garcia might be at a welterweight. But nonetheless, I do think they'll cross paths again. Now, interestingly enough, someone else reached out to Ryan Garcia, and it was Eddy Renynoso. And if you recall, Ryan Garcia did train with Eddy Renynoso, and the whole thing blew out and got out of proportion, and people taking sides and all that stuff. But listen, number one, Eddy Renynoso knows you. He has worked with you, and if he's willing to extend his hand, and it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing, he's a well-versed trainer, and the biggest attraction in boxing right now is under him, who has been trained by him ever since. Why not? There's still a lot of things that Ryan Garcia needs to learn. Yes, okay, he can punch, but how do you develop that punch? How do you develop that into a true weapon? How do you disguise that weapon? How do you set that weapon up? These are all things that Ryan Garcia still has yet to fully master. When you're as fast as Ryan Garcia, you can get away with not truly developing. When you hit hard and you're really, really fast, you can get away with a lot of things because you hit hard and you're really, really fast. So you can get away with a lot of things. But, there's going to come a point in time where you will be tested, a point in time where you will meet your match, and there's going to be somebody who's just a little bit more crafty than you, and maybe he can beat you to the punch. So you need other attributes that are going to hold you in those moments. And that brings us to defense. It's going to hold you in those moments. If you have footwork, it's going to hold you in those moments. If you have a solid ring IQ, and I'm not just saying that Ryan doesn't have a solid ring IQ, but he's pretty straightforward, and all of his fights thus far have looked exactly alike. So I don't really know the extent of his ring IQ. I'm only giving him ring IQ because he's had so many fights and he's had quite the amateur career. So because of that, I'm going to give him a ring IQ. He can't have done all that and gotten this far and be a, a dingbat in the ring. That's just not possible. So he must have some level of ring IQ. But he is extremely predictable in the ring. And I think there's a lot of ways that, he can be helped and he can be groomed properly. And let me just say this. I don't think Joe Goossen's a bad trainer. Number one, nobody wanted this fight for Ryan Garcia but Ryan Garcia. He's the only one that wanted the fight. Nobody else wanted this. Well, on his side, nobody else wanted this fight. It was only him. And I imagine, Joe Goossen told him, just not now. Like, I imagine, so I don't totally agree with the firing of Joe Goossen. Well, I don't agree at all, actually, because you don't have that much time under him, and he didn't have enough time with you to develop you. And the minute, you two get together, he has his sights set on Everest, which is Gervonta Tank Davis. Now he can't fix the problems, because the problems that needs to be fixed in Ryan Garcia, he doesn't have the time to do it because he's got this fight with this Tank. So he doesn't have the time to do it. And I listen, when you're a trainer, things take time. I've had guys who I've trained, and it takes time. You just can't say, all right, you're ready for this or you're ready for that. And honestly, to be a trainer, I feel like you need to be transparent. You need to tell people the truth. I don't think you're ready for that. I think you need to stay at this weight. I think that's not your best attribute. I don't necessarily think you're the killer in the ring that you think you are. I think you're a lot more scientific than savage, and play to your strengths. And these are things that you need to have a conversation with your fighter. But when your fighter has as much star power and draw, and maybe as bullheaded because of his youth, he's young, Ryan Garcia, and he's not trying to hear it, what do? So naturally, you train him. I mean, after all, he's the fighter, right? And he's pressing for this fight, so you train him. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya said several times that he didn't feel that Ryan Garcia was ready for Tank. He said maybe like 2 years. But what do? You can't do anything. You have to roll with the punches, and that's what he wants to do, then we're going to do it. So do I think it's totally fair, him firing Joe Goossen? No. Do I think he should take the offer from Coach Calvin? I don't know. I think that's a pretty good offer. And Coach Calvin really does know what he's doing. Gervonta Tank Davis is looking better and better and more confident. He's always had confidence. Most punchers have confidence, so he's always had confidence. But it's how he's displaying his confidence now that's really starting to impress me on another level. He used to display his confidence with straight savagery, but now he's displaying his confidence in patience, timing, understanding of spots and angles, patience. Those are the things that he's displaying his confidence, because he knows if I just get the right spot, in the right moment, in the right sequence, it could all be over. And he's getting the job done, and kudos to him. So would Ryan Garcia benefit from being under Coach Calvin? Absolutely, he would benefit. And I think it would give him a different look. Every location or coast or area or particular geographic location, they kind of have their own style or way of fighting. If you go to Philly, they're really rough. They're really aggressive in the ring. They're brawlers. And so it's just kind of depending on where you go and who you're going to be under. And I think if you put a Ryan Garcia with Coach Calvin, I think you could have a very Super Saiyan like Ryan Garcia, because he's already got the speed, he's already got the power, and I hope his confidence is not diminished. Obviously, it's going to be a little lower. I mean, he did get his first loss, but I hope it's not diminished. I expect it to be a little low. But I hope that doesn't take out his confidence in calling out the biggest names in the biggest fights. That's what I mean. But then you go to Eddy Renynoso. Listen, Canelo Alvarez has some great defense. Great head movement. And that's one thing that Ryan Garcia lacks, head movement. Canelo Alvarez, I'm not looking at Canelo Alvarez to say that Ryan Garcia can do any of these things, but I am saying that he can be taught to do a lot of things. And he has the size, he has the power, he has the speed. I really feel like he can do a lot of these things. And one thing for certain, I mean, Ryan Garcia has great timing. Now, if you just put that timing with his agility and you work on that, I think you're going to have a very rough and hard to beat Ryan Garcia on your hands. And I do believe Eddy Renynoso could bring him to that level. Either way, I think both offers are good. I think one is a little bit more challenging. And so one's a little bit more challenging because, Coach Calvin also coaches Gervonta Tank Davis. But Eddy Renynoso coaches Canelo Alvarez. And there is going to have to be like not necessarily kiss and make up, but it is going to be a little bit of humble pie if you were to go back to Eddy Renynoso. So it's a tricky situation. He obviously, I don't know about the whole Joe Goossen thing. So I never really loved that matchup in terms of trainer and fighter. But again, I'm not knocking Joe Goossen for this. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not knocking him for that. So we'll just have to wait and see. I would like to see Ryan Garcia in the ring again very soon because I think that's another thing, keeping the confidence that you have and also rebuilding the confidence. But you tell me what you think. You think that Ryan Garcia should go back to Eddy Renynoso as his head trainer or take up the offer from Coach Calvin and try something new? Drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to this channel.